Good morning and welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Liz Kepner. It's one of the top U.S. Senate races to watch this year. Arlen Specter avoids a GOP party challenge by former Congressman Pat Toomey by becoming a Democrat. Now the 30-year Senate veteran faces a Democratic primary challenge by Congressman Joe Sestak. The retired Navy admiral was elected to Pennsylvania's 7th District in 2006. He's vice chairman of the House Small Business Committee and a member of the House Education and Armed Services Committees. Other candidates in the race have been invited for separate appearances. Congressman Sestak, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
It's good to be with you, Liz.
It's good that you're here. I think it was 2008 that I was reading a straw poll was conducted, and a large amount of Pennsylvanians, I think it was 85%, wanted you to run for Senate. Why do you want to be a senator?
I think the thing that most ails our nation today is the lack of trust in Washington, D.C. Much like I joined up during Vietnam to the military didn't have a lot of trust then. And after 31 years, we regained that trust. I want to be part of a team that actually is a public servant down there, no longer a politician, willing to even switch your party in order to keep your job. And I want to change Washington to focus on the working families. They've really been forgotten as we let Wall Street gamble with the homes of young couples in my district, as we actually gave tax cuts over the last 8 years during the Bush administration, where 53% of the money went to the 1%, the wealthiest of the wealthy. We have to change it to the engine of our economy, the working family. That's what I want to do.
Now, health care reform obviously has been in the news. It has President Obama's signature. You supported it overwhelmingly. You've always backed it. You consider it payback to the country that provided you and your family health care during a very serious time in your life and your daughter's life. Explain that.
I tell people there's nothing more intimate or personal in public policy than health care. I know. My daughter, at 4 years old, my only child, was struck with a malignant brain tumor. She was given 3 to 9 months, and she's here today, 8 years old, going on 22, and running my life. And I love her. But I love this nation, because in the military they gave us an opportunity. I went down to Washington as a Congress member and ran so that everybody would have that same opportunity. Those working families I talked to you about. When you look around Philadelphia and the surrounding counties and see that 2/3 of those who are uninsured are working, think about them if their daughter gets cancer. Can she get coverage? And if so, can they afford it and the right treatments? Now they can. I would lose my job in a heartbeat to have gotten that bill through. My daughter and every other child in America can no longer be denied now care for a pre-existing condition. And we are going to reduce cost with this. We've saved the country $1.2 trillion. And the dividends to having, like we did in the military, warriors who are healthy and not worried about their families. Now these workers aren't going to worry about their families, and they're healthy, and the return to our nation is tremendous. This is exactly what had to be done, and I'll fight every day to make it even better.
I can imagine as a congressman, you probably heard from people who were in these situations. Their children had pre-existing conditions. They couldn't leave a job. They were laid off. What was that like, getting letters or emails from people?
It's heartbreaking. We keep our office open 7 days a week. We never close. Call us this weekend, because my district was hurting. And we've actually had a woman come in last August for one example. She had missed in the previous 10 years a $29 increase in her premium, paid everything else, hardly ever sick. She got cancer. And the insurance company, by law, denied her care because she missed one small $29 payment. We will do anything to help them. But now, rescission, which by law the insurance company could abuse people like that, has been removed. And so this is what Washington has to do. We are going to truly be rewarded by that, and then moving into education. In the military, we won't promote you above a certain level unless you have at least an associate's college degree. Your time, our money. To compete with China and India, that's the next step. And there's a lot to be done, and I want to be part to make it happen for the working families.
Well, more than a dozen states, including Pennsylvania, are challenging whether the reform is constitutional. Do you think it'll survive a test in the courts?
No, it's silly. It's politics. And it's using working families' taxes to work against them. No, we're going to be well beyond that. And I think as we go forward and people see the benefit, we're all of a sudden going to regain trust that maybe Washington can start to do something right.
Let's talk economy. The president has put his signature on a $17.5 billion jobs bill. It includes tax breaks that are designed to spur hiring and help small business owners. I know that the nation just posted its largest job gain in 3 years in March. And while this is a positive report, how much should we read into it?
We should understand that it's going to take a bit of time to come out of the wilderness. Let's not oversell it. But that economic stimulus bill, which is absolutely a necessity, has worked to slow the hemorrhaging of jobs. Now, we shouldn't have had an economic stimulus bill if the Republicans and Rick Santorum and Pat Toomey and Arlen Specter hadn't voted for the wrong Bush policies, but we did. But here's what we have to do is even more. The majority of Pennsylvanians actually work in a small business. I like what we've done, but according to my legislation, if you give a 15% tax credit for every new payroll job, it will soak up 5 million unemployed in 2 years. Community banks want to lend to small businesses, and they want to get loans, but they're not lending in this environment. The government should, for community banks, not Wall Street, community banks guarantee loans up to 98% so they begin lending again. So more to be done, but we're going to take a couple years to get this. But thank goodness we're starting to move where people work, small businesses.
What do you think about President Obama deciding to open portions of the East Coast to oil and gas exploration as a way to create jobs, ease the country's reliance on foreign oil? Now, opponents are worrying about the potential danger to the environment. Is it safe enough, or do you think it's risky?
I have a bit of concern. Although I agree with the purpose. I patrolled those oil lanes in the Persian Gulf during the Iran-Iraq war when tankers were being shot at. So I know we want to wean ourselves from getting about 60% of our oil from there. But the oil companies already own 33 million acres offshore that they're not drilling on. Let's use those or lose them back to us. So I want to examine this, but right now I'd like us to first have them use that rather than take that risky step, and also get more going towards alternative energy.
How do you feel about these Tea Party groups? I know that they've been, very vocal against both Democrats and Republicans, but do you think that they're gaining momentum?
Well, I don't think we should dismiss that they have some legitimate concerned members among them. Sure, they get out of control every so often. But if anybody had gone around Pennsylvania in July before them and saw that even Democrats were saying, my gosh, what are you doing in Washington? We're losing trust in you and those public servants. I respect them, but I think we have to do a better job of explaining the issues to them. For example, last Sunday, I had a healthcare town hall, the first in the nation after the vote was taken. On Saturday, I'm actually going to have one in my district again, and we've invited them, because we have their emails, to come to it. We have to do a better job in dialoguing. But that said, there's never an excuse for violence. And number two, where there has been a small little element, but not them others. But I believe this. I believe in civil discourse, and I'd like to see that to be more brought out on both sides.
Quickly, speaking of civility, you and Republican challenger Pat Toomey have occasionally debated on the same stage. How are you so civil to each other when it seems like Democrats and Republicans, become so caustic? Well,
we've had a clash of ideas last August. We're going to do it again at LaSalle University. But we both understand it isn't about the person or belittling the other side. We violently disagree with each other, but I'm very fortunate he's going to debate with me, because I've asked Arlen Specter to, and he'll only do it on a Saturday night during the Mets-Phillies game. So I said, hey, Pat, you voted the same way as Arlen Specter, so why don't I call you Arlen during the debate? You call me Joe. It's going to be a great debate about a different way to approach America than people have, for the general election, have a choice between us.
Well, our guest on Newsmakers has been Pennsylvania Congressman Joe Sestak, a Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
We really appreciate you being here. One more thing. We have a final note here. For many years, and many formats. Malcolm Poindexter was the original host of Newsmakers. Well, Malcolm passed away last week. He was 84 years old. His 50-year career included 2 years at KYW News Radio and 3 decades at KYW TV. Malcolm was always a consummate professional and dignified gentleman, and our condolences to his family. Newsmakers returns next Sunday at the same time, and you can watch us anytime at CBS3.com. I'm Liz Kepner.